Good morning. Good morning. What is up, everybody? JT here with another Chart Talk Live brought to you by Xtrades. It is Tuesday, September the 2nd. Hope everybody is doing well. Let me get my screen sharing started. There we go. Let's get over to the chat. What's up, LB? Good to see you. Good morning. Oh, great. Got all the NSFW content here in the chat. Oh boy, let's get rid of all that. There we go. What's up, Navy Plum? Good morning to you. What's up, Rack? Hope you all are doing well. Apologies for missing last Thursday's stream. Still dealing with some health pain issues, but finally trying to find the right balance of these meds to where I'm not totally knocked out in the mornings. And hopefully we will have all this sorted out here in the next couple of weeks after some more scans and follow-up appointments and all that stuff. So anyway, doing my best to push through it all and make sure that we are staying on top of things in the markets while I get this figured out. So I appreciate everybody's patience and understanding and me unexpectedly missing last Thursday's stream. Again, gonna try to keep this moving as best we can every Tuesday and Thursday at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So with that being said, let's dig in. Let's take a look at how things are moving in the markets. What's up, Baby Yoda? Good to see you here this morning, Billy and Rack. Good to see y'all. Good morning. All right, so it'll be fairly quick getting through the overall market analysis. We only have a few tickers to look at, those being last Tuesday's tickers, and then we'll get to doing some new trade plans and, of course, answering any questions you all have here pre-market. So with that being said, let's settle in. Let's go. If you all have any questions or anything you want me to take a look at, or tickers that you want us to include in our plans this morning, please feel free to go ahead and start dropping that stuff in the chats, and we will get to as many of those questions and ticker requests as we possibly can in the time we have here pre-market. All right, so market's on a pretty heavy dump here this morning. Things have pulled back significantly. ES down almost 1% from last Friday's close after the long weekend. So things pulling back quite a bit, back below one of our key levels there at 64.29. That was a key level for us to break to open up room for the upside. We are now back below that and have back tested that as resistance. So back underneath that as a potential challenge overhead for the market to recover and move back to the upside at 64.29. So keep that level on watch. And of course, below 63.89, if we break below that, well, then I think we open up more room for more downside. That was a level that we had on watch last time we played out through this range, and the same can be said for how things are looking going into the market open today. So we're definitely in a little bit of a consolidation range. As long as we're below 64.29 and above 63.89, which is where we currently find ourselves here pre-market. So market trying to figure out if it's going to continue to pull back, or we'll see if it wants to try to recover again. I think if we see a break back above 64.29, market might try to push and recover some of this move to the downside. Below 63.89, this downside move can accelerate and open up room for some more downside targets. So keep that in mind as you decide whether or not you want to focus more on buying these dips or shorting any kind of pumps or rips that we see in the market. Definitely would be leaning a little bit more toward shorting the rips on anything, especially below 64.29 that we just talked about. So keep all that in mind. If we do break below 63.89, obviously we're opening up some room for some downside targets. most likely down to 63.58 or very close to that. We've seen some bottoming action happening very close to that level, and then obviously more downside targets below that if the market does decide to continue down. So we'll keep all that on watch, but right now certainly looking like a little bit of a consolidation range. Be very cautious, conscientious of positions that you're taking until we have a little bit more clear direction due to this pullback kind of taking us back into that range between a tough resistance overhead and a pretty strong support below us. All right, so let's get to some of our trade plan recaps from last Tuesday. Tesla basically stayed within our trading range here, below the call entry and above the put entry. Clear rejection of that call entry there pre-market last Wednesday after we did the plan on Tuesday. That continued to pull back, and we saw last Friday the break below resistance back test, and now we're pulling back to PT1 for puts here. So certainly make sure that if you did get into Tesla puts and swing those based on our plan from last Friday, or plan from last Tuesday, but entry, I should say, last Friday, make sure that you are taking some profit at open and moving up your stops. It's been a good downside move, but sometimes PT1 is all you get. So keep that in mind. Make sure that you are booking profits and moving up your stops to break even, or maybe even in a slight bit of profit, so you aren't letting those remaining contracts go from green to red. So Tesla plan playing out nicely to the downside. Oklo, this was another one from last Tuesday's plan. It did play out and give us some upside targets. Let me get this on the hourly. 24 hours, not very useful for showing the moves. So did give us a break above and back test pre-market, push for PT1 plus there same day. Did pull back to our call entry and has pushed a little bit higher, not quite hitting PT2 there for calls, but now that pullback from some of these upper targets has continued and taken us back within the range below the call entry there at 72.38. So Oklo could play out this trade plan again. Alerts should still be active through the end of the day today on this one. So keep an eye on it, or mark these levels on your chart, set your own alerts for it. But the alerts for this particular trade plan, like I said, will expire today. So make sure that you're keeping these levels on watch if this is a plan that you want to continue to trade and execute on. Overall, Oklo looking pretty good for consolidation and potentially a bounce. We'll see. 69.30 really does need to hold for it, but we'll keep that on watch as we make our way through the rest of this short trading week. And then Galaxy, this is another one essentially consolidated between all of our levels, bounced off that put entry there Friday, but here we see pre-market does seem to be breaking to the downside and wanting to head for PT1. So no action on this one personally. You'd really have to be, excuse me, shorting shares on this one with the entry playing out pre-market and options not available to trade right now. But overall, Galaxy looking like it does want to continue to pull back and push lower based on this pre-market action that we're seeing this morning. All right, that does it for our trade plan recaps. Like I said, pretty short recap and getting kind of back up to speed on everything because we didn't have any trade plans last Thursday. I unfortunately and unexpectedly had to miss that live streaming session. So let's get to some new ticker requests here this morning. What do you guys have? What do you want me to take a look at? Let's dig in. Let's get some new plans on deck. Excuse me. So we've got something to watch as we go through the remainder of this short trading week. Not everybody at once. Palantir, all right, we'll take a look at Palantir for LB. Happy to take a look at that. right. PLTR. Recap the last Apple plan. Sure, I'll take a look at that for you. Navy Plum. Let's take a look at PLTR. Where are my levels? There we go. All right. Been a little while since I've looked at Palantir. Definitely pulling back with the market towards some of these support levels. 200 crossing below the 333 is a bit bearish there from an SMA standpoint. NTS also looking overall bearish on this one right now. All right, let's take a look at it. Let me clean up these levels real quick. There we go. All right. Like I said, it's been a little bit since I've looked at Palantir. It's been kind of on constant all-time high mode, but clearly seeing a bit of a pullback here. This is an interesting level we may want to keep on watch. I'm going to go ahead and mark it. All right, Palantir, where does this start to get interesting? Kind of eyeballing this 161.16 level as a potential upside. We've seen some pushes just above it that are a little bit concerning. I don't want to get caught in a fake out. 200 SMAs coming down there. All right, let's see. Could actually be a potential earlier entry as well. Yeah, there's definitely a level sitting somewhere in that neck of the woods. And it does seem to be moving for more downside. Let's see. Hmm. A little bit torn on both of these plans, to be perfectly honest, but I do see actually a window for the downside trade plan starting to open up right here below 147.69. That should open up a move down here to one. I'm going to call it 144.72. Stop loss right here at 149.89. All right, where does the continuation happen? Where are the next targets below that PT1 for downside? Yeah, I like this 141.58. And below that, somewhere right. Yeah, right about here, 138.03 would be my third target for this downside trade plan. So that all looks pretty good. Where does this upside get interesting? Small gap to fill overhead there. Lots of support kicking in around this 152.69. think it's actually a little bit closer to 152.58. I think we do have an opportunity there. If it can break back above 152.58, like I said, there is this small gap to fill to the upside here. I would certainly look at that as a first price target. Second target right here at about 159.83. Third target's going to be somewhere near this previous high or that PM high. Question is, where's the real level at? A couple of market high tests. Yeah, I do like that. 164.14. So, this is what our Palantir trade plans look like. Let's get this locked in here. Whoops. This is a shared stop loss average down there at 149.89. There we go. All right, that looks better. Let's clean this up real quick. That looks good. All right, let's get this locked in here. So here's our PLTR live stream plans. We'll talk through these real quick just to make sure everybody's on the same page. Let's get this posted in the chat. And over here in the Elite channel. Copy our message link. Whoops, not that. There we go. Lock this in here and in our template. And last but not least, let's get our alerts going. I keep doing that. There we go. Give this till next Tuesday. All right, so let's talk through this real quick. Here is our PLTR live stream plans. We're looking for a break over 152.58. That should bring price targets at 156.34, 159.83, and 164.14 with a stop loss average down at 149.89. To the downside, we're looking for a break below 147.69 with targets at 144.72, 141.58, and final target at 138.03 with a stop loss average down shared with that upside trade plan there at 149.89. Those are your Palantir live stream plans for Tuesday, September 2nd. Let's go. All right. Wanted to take a look at the last Apple play we did. We will take a look at that. And I've got a question over here on YouTube. I have a question about a trade I made. SPY call for 9.4. Clearly a bad idea. Just cut bait at the open, or what do I look for? Um, that's a very good question, Andrea. Um, I would say a lot of that would have to do with what your plan was when you entered that trade. As you can see, clearly we want to focus on plans that have clearly defined entry levels, whether that be for the upside or the downside, have clearly defined price targets that we'll use to take profits and move our stops up, and of course, clearly defined stop loss average down levels. Um, I would have to imagine that on this pullback that we're seeing on SPY, and let's just take a quick look at it from the lens of SPY real quick, that any reasonable stop loss is more than likely invalidated with a 1% down move over the weekend. Not only are we gapping down, but we gap down and rejected PT3 for puts from last Friday's plan. I mean, literally almost perfectly. So your expiration is just in a couple of days. I would be interested to see where those contracts open up. I mean, they may be so beaten up that any money that you're gonna save by closing the trade at this point would be fairly insignificant. I could be wrong about that. Again, I'm not sure what strikes you're in. That would also be helpful to know. You just mentioned SPY calls, but if there's any significant money left on those contracts after this pullback over the weekend, on those calls that you're holding for the fourth, I would certainly go ahead and recoup what little investment or what little money is left still in those contracts, and reposition, readjust, and just look to make it back on the next trade. I think that that's one thing that a lot of people really struggle with is, one, being willing to go ahead and cut the loss and not trying to salvage a trade where your strikes and your expirations might not be right. I think that it's a place where a lot of people get stuck because they don't want to take the loss on that particular trade. But really, especially if you've seen something like a 1% pullback like we've seen over the weekend here and going into pre-market, you really do need to adjust your strikes and your expirations. So, I certainly would lean more toward cutting that existing trade that clearly, is has to be invalidated at this point. I can't imagine your stop loss is allowing for any more room with that short of an expiration. And then readjusting, getting back into another trade, whether that's calls or puts. The one thing I would advise strongly against is trying to revenge trade and make back the losses that you're going to realize on those calls like today, right? Be very careful, just stick to strategies and methodologies that give you consistent results, and let that play out over time and ultimately recoup the losses that way. Don't feel like you've got to make those losses back immediately because you may have taken a bad beat on those SPY calls. So yeah, that's the best advice I can give you based on your question there, Andrea. So hopefully that was helpful. All right, let's take a look at Apple for Navy Plum. Sure, happy to help. That's what I'm here for. All right, so Navy Plum wanted to recap our last Apple trade plan. We still have those levels locked in here. Our plan was to take calls above 230.44 with a first target up there at 235.19. Clearly, this daily resistance where we've double topped was the more important level, and I was shooting one level too far for that first price target. Although, based on the amount of room that we're given this to work out, I think that PT1 was appropriate, but at the same time, we should not be basing our price targets just on having good risk reward setups. Let's base those on where the levels actually are sitting. Clearly, I was looking more at some of these sweeps and these wicks that came up and touched 235.19, but obviously the concentration of buyers and sellers was really a little bit lower. So I think I planned too aggressively for that first price target. Should have been a little bit more conservative. Um, Hindsight's always 2020, of course. We are still above the stop loss average down for that call side trade plan, though, and that does still look like a really good level with some confluence coming up right below it. They're at 227.30. If we were, now that we've got a little bit more data, we did this plan a couple of Thursdays ago, a week before this past Thursday. If I was going to look at revamping this plan, I would make, now that we've got this additional price data through here to look at, I would make these adjustments to this Apple trade plan. Those being adjusting and setting our stop up here at 228.58. What's up, Chris? Good morning to you, sir. Hope you're doing well. I would change, or I would make this daily resistance there that I should have picked in the first place but didn't. That's okay. I own that. I would make that PT1, PT2 to 235.19. That 240.23 seems like quite the move we were expecting overhead. I'm just trying to recall why I thought that was going to be the case. I would definitely scale that back some. Actually, I was getting real aggressive on that on some of these price targets. Yeah, this is definitely a much better PT3 to watch right here at about 237.83. I think we could also make some adjustments to this downside trade plan. Could see some windows of opportunity opening up here. Yeah, I've got the, and I'm guessing I highlighted this level because it was a level that I was interested in. There's a level somewhere near it. I think it's actually a little bit more solid. Let's adjust this down. I want to get this just right. Come here. Probably sitting. Let me get rid of this too. This is hiding. Yeah, it's actually a little bit lower. Right about there. If we look at that as a potential put entry, now I would make this adjustment. Let's get this out of the mix there. PT1, is this a little bit higher? Yeah, this could be actually closer to that. See what that looks like. Yeah, that's a good PT1, PT2 for puts. Definitely an interesting level right here at 221.87. And then I think we take a shot down to that weekly level at 219.32. So this is what the adjusted Apple trade plan would be. Whoops. 230.44. Whoops. Golly. Get my fingers working here. God, they still aren't working. 233.37. 235.19 and 237.83. Stop loss average down. 228.58 with a put entry at 226.60. 223.70, 221.87, and 219.32. Stop loss average down at 228.58. So that looks pretty good. Let's get this locked in. Let's adjust. There we go. Levels. There we go. There we go. Cool. All right. So this is what our adjusted Apple Live stream plans look like. And let me get this posted in the Elite chat. Cool, cool, cool. Let's lock this into our templates. And alerts. All right, so let's talk through this real quick. What are we looking for here on Apple now that we've made some slight adjustments to our prior plan that Navy Plum wanted me to take a look at? We are looking for a break back above 230.44 that should bring an upside target, first target at 233.37. Above that, we're looking for targets at 235.19 and 237.83 with a stop loss average down at 228.58. To the downside, we're looking for a break below 226.60. That should bring targets at 223.70, 221.87, and 219.32. Shared stop loss average down with the upside trade plan there at 228.58. All right. Trying to understand. Let's see. I got to catch up on the chat here. What's up, Chris? Good morning to you, brother. Hope you're doing well. I guess I just sent you a friend request, sent you all some requests to the trial list, trying to understand before taking new calls. Good idea, Minu. Make sure you know what you're doing. Call put levels again. You mean the ones from last week? I haven't done the excuse me, haven't done the levels for today yet. Or if are you talking about the ES levels, LB? Just let me know so I can try to answer your question. Yeah, so I haven't done the spy plan levels for today yet. I'll do that as soon as we wrap up the stream here this morning. So let's see. We did Apple. We did, what was the other one we just did? Palantir. We've got a little bit of time left here. Any other ticker requests for trade plans you all want me to take a look at? Let's get one more knocked out before we call it a day. CoreWeave, okay. Although, let's see if we can spread the love here a little bit. We did Palantir. Yeah, we did do CoreWeave recently. Let's take a look at it. MicroStrategy, or I guess they're just called Strategy now, aren't they? Let's take a look at CoreWeave real quick. I know we did do a trade plan on it recently. It's not that. We are actually right here in the midst of that prior trade plan. A very interesting confluence, excuse me, here this morning. If it can break back over that 200 SMA or just give a little bit more of a push off this 96.10 level pre-market, we could see a bounce here. I've been watching this ascending trend line. It holds up on the higher time frames. I know it looks a little bit iffy here on the hourly chart, but it holds up on the higher time frames. 200 SMAs right there. This CoreWeave could bounce out of the gate here, assuming 96.10 holds. But, whoops, I didn't mean to do that. Let's go to... I'm going to see if I can't quickly... Yeah, here's... I think that's the same plan. Yep, here's the link. I'll go ahead and share this to the previous CoreWeave plan. LB, I would just take a look at these levels in this plan. Go ahead and set them on your chart. It would be a good one to watch. I just pasted it. That's the link to the prior CoreWeave plan there in the elite chat. Let's take a look at MSTR real quick. This is one that I don't get asked about a lot. I don't think I've charted very much. It's one of those, just seems like it's always in some kind of chaos, and that's just not my personal trading style. All right, MicroStrategy, or like I said, they're just called Strategy now. Clearly, a really interesting level right here at 341.27, one that I have not marked on my charts yet, but again, this is not one I look at often, have not charted it very thoroughly. It is a big gap to fill to the upside up here to 357.70. That gap really kicks in right at about 345.46. We do have some rejections and some resistance a little bit higher than that. There's actually still a small gap to fill up to 352.88 as well. Looks like the last plan I did on it was back in July. want to get a sense for 354.46. Let's see what this looks like. There's definitely a fight that takes place over that 345. 46, but most, okay, all right, let's take a look at it this way. I think there is a window of opportunity. We'll go a little bit shy of filling that gap to go ahead and take some profits. Let me just check this against what I was looking at back here. This weekly level could be a tad. Might need a small adjustment down to here. I also like this as a stop loss there at 338.27. Yeah, that all jives. So, over 355.38, and it could push just a little bit higher before we reject on that gap fill to the upside there at 357.70, so just keep that in mind. MicroStrategy POS. What do they even do? Do they just hold Bitcoin? I know that they're, aren't they big in the cryptos? But yeah, Mike Saylor, Hyper. They want to be the bank of Bitcoin. Yeah, like I said, I don't know if I've ever personally traded MicroStrategy. It's not just not one. Like I said, it's just a little too chaotic for me. I like to have a little bit more control, I guess, in the price action. Um, but clearly, you know, with it being more chaotic, aka more volatile, you can also get some big wins, big losses. I just like to be able to have a little bit more, I don't know, consistency in the price action, I guess. It seems like it's always all over the place to me. All right, so where does this downside plan get interesting, or downside open up, really? Looking at this 328.70 level. Did get a little bit of what looks like a sweep below it there, though. I don't want to get caught in one of those. Excuse me. Actually, I'm gonna make a couple adjustments, add some levels here. This is the other one that I'm looking at, right? Yeah, it really is. We're kind of sitting on it here pre-market. Yeah, yep, that checks out across the board. So let's set this up. Why does that look so crazy? I got two levels there, that's why. There we go. Oops. Leave that alone. All right, that looks good. So then targets for the downside. Small adjustment to this level right here. Third target. Yeah, I'd be shooting for this 293.41. So whoops. Hopes I can see the price levels. 345.46 on up to 355.38, 365.03, and 374.66. Whoops. There we go. 338.27 put entry. What is that? 325.90. Gosh dang it. My fingers are not working this morning. 313.50, 304.25, and 293.41. Stop loss average down. 333 sounds like my favorite moving average. Okay. Let's make some final adjustments here. We'll be good to lock this one in. Let's move those off a little bit. Looks good. Okay, cool. Here comes your MicroStrategy live stream plans. Let's talk through these real quick. All right, what are we looking for on MicroStrategy? Actually, before we do that, let me get my link here. Almost got ahead of myself. There we go. Lock in this template. And our alerts. All right, what are we looking for here on MicroStrategy? We're looking for a break back above 345.46. That should bring some upside. Price targets at 355.38, 365.03, and 374.67 with a stop loss average down at 338.27. To the downside, we're looking for a break below 325.91. That should bring targets at 313.50, 304.25, and 293.41 with a stop loss average down at 333.77. Those are your MicroStrategy live stream plans. Upside and downside, you'll be ready to go. And it is about 10 minutes out from market open, so I am going to get this SPY plan put together and ready for you all so I can get that out before or as close to market open as possible. So let me go get to work on that, especially with this big downside move here this morning. Let's keep an eye on these trade plans. Alerts will go to the chat as always through the bot. So we will be back this coming Thursday at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I hope you all will take some time to come back and join me then. Come with questions, come with tickers you want me to take a look at, trade scenarios that you've been in that you want some advice on, whatever the case might be, and I will do my best to get those, to get everything in the mix as we possibly can here on that Thursday live stream session. Also, if you haven't already done so, don't forget to go do your monthly surveys in the Xtrades app. That helps us get a gauge of where we're at, who's performing, who's not, and who you all are gravitating toward as far as leaders in this community. So make sure that you are getting those survey votes in every month when those get published. I think surveys go live on like the 25th of the month and wrap up on the 5th of the following month. So the August survey is now open until September 5th. Make sure that you go participate in that. All right. Until Thursday, this is JT with another Chart Talk Live. Thank you so much for joining me. As we always say here, plan your trades, trade your plans. Remember, we're looking for profits, not perfection. So keep those wins big, keep your losses small. Go out there and get some green. I will see you all in the chats. Until then, I will see you next Thursday at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thanks for joining me. Take care. Have a great day.